Welcome, my friends, to a place where we share inspiration and positivity. Welcome to our video on Albany, New York. We're thrilled to have you here. Albany is the capital city of the U.S. state of New York and the seat of Albany County. It is located on the west bank of the Hudson River, about 10 miles south of its confluence with the Mohawk River, and about 135 miles north of New York City. The city is known for its architecture, commerce, culture, institutions of higher education, and rich history. It is the economic and cultural core of the Capital District of the state of New York, which comprises the Albany Schenectady Troy Metropolitan Statistical Area, including the nearby cities and suburbs of Troy, Schenectady, and Saratoga Springs. With an estimated population of 1.1 million in 2013, the Capital District is the third most populous metropolitan region in the state. As of 2020, Albany's population was 99,224. The Hudson River area was originally inhabited by Algonquian-speaking Mohican Mahican, who called it Pempotowwuthut-Muhhcanneuw. The area was settled by Dutch colonists who, in 1614, built Fort Nassau for fur trading and in 1624, built Fort Orange. In 1664, the English took over the Dutch settlements, renaming the city Albany in honor of the Duke of Albany, the future James II. The city was officially chartered in 1686 under English rule. It became the capital of New York in 1797 after the formation of the United States. Albany is one of the oldest surviving settlements of the original British 13 colonies. No other city in the United States has been continuously chartered as long. In the late 18th century and throughout most of the 19th, Albany was a center of trade and transportation. The city lies toward the north end of the navigable Hudson River. It was the original eastern terminus of the Erie Canal, connecting to the Great Lakes, and was home to some of the earliest railroads in the world. In the years, a powerful political machine controlled by the Democratic Party arose in Albany. In the latter part of the 20th century, Albany's population shrank because of urban sprawl and suburbanization. In the years, the New York State Legislature approved for the city a $1 million building and renovation plan, which spurred redevelopment downtown. In the early 21st century, Albany's high-technology industry grew, with great strides in nanotechnology. Now, let's shift our focus to Mohican, Mohawk, and Dutch before 1660 and embark on an intellectual exploration of its various dimensions. The Hudson River area was originally inhabited by Algonquian-speaking Mohican Mahican, who called it Pempotowwuthut-Muhhcanneuw, meaning the fireplace of the Mohican nation. Based to the west along the Mohawk River, the Iroquois-speaking Mohawk called it Schenectady through the pine woods, referring to the path they took there. The Mohawk were one of the 5 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy. According to Hendrik Opperman, the Mohicans came to the area from the north and the west. They settled along the Mahicanatuck, which is now called the Hudson River, and called themselves the Muhhcanneuw, the people of the waters that are never still. This name evolved to Mohicans. The Mohawks were based in the Mohawk Valley and noted for their fur trading and their access to trade between the Iroquois and other nations. The Mohawk became strong trading partners with the Dutch and English. It is likely that the Albany area was visited by European fur traders perhaps as early as 1540, but the extent and duration of those visits are unclear. Permanent European claims began when Englishman Henry Hudson, exploring for the Dutch East India Company on the Half Moon, reached the area in 1609, claiming it for the United Netherlands. In 1614, Hendrik Christiansen built Fort Nassau on Castle Island in the Hudson River. The fort acted as a fur trading post and was the first documented European structure in present-day Albany. Commencement of the fur trade provoked hostility from the French colony in Canada and among the natives, all of whom vied to control the trade. In 1618, a flood ruined Fort Nassau, but the Dutch replaced it with Fort Orange on the mainland in 1624. Both forts were named in honor of the leading family of the Dutch Revolt, members of the House of Orange-Nassau. Fort Orange and the surrounding area were incorporated as the village of Beverwijck in 1652 and the city of Albany in 1686. In these early decades of trade, the Dutch, Mohican, and Mohawk developed relations that reflected differences among their three cultures. As we progress through this video, let's shift our attention towards British occupation to 1800 and uncover its hidden depths. Albany is one of the oldest surviving European settlements from the original 13 colonies and the longest continuously chartered city in the United States. When New Netherland was captured by the English in 1664, the name was changed from Beverwijck to Albany in honor of the Duke of Albany, later James II. Duke of Albany was a Scottish title given since 1398, generally to a younger son of the King of Scots. The name is ultimately derived from Alba, the Gaelic name for Scotland. The Dutch briefly regained Albany in August 1673 and renamed the city Willemstad. The English took permanent possession in 1674 with the Treaty of Westminster. On November 1, 1683, the province of New York was split into counties, with Albany County being the largest. At that time, the county included all of present New York State north of Dutchess and Ulster counties in addition to present-day Bennington County, Vermont. Theoretically stretching west to the Pacific Ocean, Albany became the county seat. Albany was formally chartered as a municipality by Provincial Governor Thomas Dongan on July 22, 1686. The Dongan Charter was virtually identical in content to the charter awarded to the city of New York 3 months earlier. Dongan created Albany as a strip of land 1 mile wide and 16 miles longitude. Over the years, Albany would lose much of the land to the west and annex land to the north and south. At this point, Albany had a population of about 500 people. In 1754, representatives of 7 British North American colonies met in the Stadthuis, Albany's City Hall, for the Albany Congress. Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania presented the Albany Plan of Union there, which was the first formal proposal to unite the colonies. Although it was never adopted by Parliament, it was an important precursor to the United States Constitution. The same year, the French and Indian War, the fourth in a series of wars dating back to 1689, began. It ended in 1763 with French defeat, resolving a situation that had been a constant threat to Albany and held back its growth. In 1775, with the colonies in the midst of the Revolutionary War, the Stadthuis became home to the Albany Committee of Correspondence, the political arm of the local revolutionary movement, which took over operation of Albany's government and eventually expanded its power to control all of Albany County. Tories and prisoners of war were often jailed in the Stadthuis alongside common criminals. In 1776, Albany native Philip Livingston signed the Declaration of Independence at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. During and after the Revolutionary War, Albany County saw a great increase in real estate transactions. After Horatio Gates defeated John Burgoyne at Saratoga in 1777, the upper Hudson Valley was generally at peace as the war raged on elsewhere. Prosperity was soon seen all over upstate New York. Migrants from Vermont and Connecticut began flowing in, noting the advantages of living on the Hudson and trading at Albany, while being only a few days' sail from New York City. Albany reported a population of 3,498 in the first national census in 1790, an increase of almost 700% since its chartering. On November 17, 1793, a large fire broke out, destroying 26 homes on Broadway, Maiden Lane, James Street, and State Street. The fire originated at a stable belonging to Leonard Garnsevroot and was suspected to be arson set by enslaved people. 3 were arrested and charged with arson: Pompey, a man enslaved by Matthew Vischer; Dinah, a 14-year-old girl enslaved by Volkert P. Dowu; and Bet, a 12-year-old girl enslaved by Philip South. Van Rensselaer. On January 6, 1794, the 3 were tried and sentenced to death. For reasons unknown, Governor George Clinton issued a temporary stay of execution, but Dinah and Bet were executed by hanging on March 14, and Pompey on April 11, 1794. In 1797, the state capital of New York was moved permanently to Albany. From statehood to this date, the legislature had frequently moved the state capital between Albany, Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and the city of New York. Albany is the 10th oldest state capital in the United States and the second oldest city that is a state capital, after Santa Fe, New Mexico. As we venture forward, let's take a closer look at 1800 to 1942 and its impact on our understanding. Albany has been a center of transportation for much of its history. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Albany saw development of the turnpike, and by 1815, Albany was the turnpike center of the state. The development of Simeon DeWitt's grid block system in Hawaii renamed streets that had originally honored British royalty with names of birds and mammals instead was intersected by these major arterials coming out of Albany, cutting through the city at unexpected angles. The construction of the turnpike, in conjunction with canal and railroad systems, made Albany the hub of transportation for pioneers going to Buffalo and the Michigan Territory in the early and mid-19th century. In 1807, Robert Fulton initiated a steamboat line from New York to Albany, the first successful enterprise of its kind anywhere in the world. By 1810, with 10,763 people, Albany was the 10th largest urban place in the nation. The town and village north of Albany, known as the Colony, was annexed in 1815. In 1825, the Erie Canal was completed, forming a continuous water route from the Great Lakes to New York City. Unlike the current barge canal, which ends at nearby Waterford, the original Erie Canal ended at Albany. Lock 1 was north of Colony Street. The canal emptied into a 32-acre man-made lagoon called the Albany Basin, which was Albany's main port from 1825 until the port of Albany Rensselaer opened in 1932. In 1829, while working as a professor at the Albany Academy, Joseph Henry, widely regarded as the foremost American scientist of the 19th century, built the first electric motor. 3 years later, he discovered electromagnetic self-induction, the SI unit, for which is now the Henry. He went on to be the first secretary of the Smithsonian Institution. In the 1830 and 1840 censuses, Albany was ranked as the 9th largest urban place in the nation. It dropped back to 10th in 1850. This was the last time the city was one of the top 10 largest urban places in the nation. Albany also has significant history with rail transport, as the location of 2 major regional railroad headquarters. The Delaware and Hudson Railway was headquartered in Albany at what is now the SUNY System Administration Building. In 1853, Erastus Corning, a noted industrialist and Albany's mayor from 1834 to 1837, consolidated 10 railroads stretching from Albany to Buffalo into the New York Central Railroad NYCRR, headquartered in Albany until Cornelius Vanderbilt moved it to New York City in 1867. One of the 10 companies that formed the NYCRR was the Mohawk and Hudson Railroad, which was the first railroad in the state and the first successful steam railroad running regularly scheduled service in the country. While the key to Albany's economic prosperity in the 19th century was transportation, industry and business also played a role. Largely thanks to the city's Dutch and German roots, beer was one of its biggest commodities. Beverwyck Brewery, originally known as Quinn and Nolan being mayor of Albany, was the last remaining brewer from that time when it closed in 1972. The city's location at the east end of the Erie Canal gave it unparalleled access to both raw products and a captive customer base in the west. Albany was known for its publishing houses, and to some extent, still is. Albany was second only to Boston in the number of books produced for most of the 19th century. Iron foundries in both the north and south ends of the city attracted thousands of immigrants to the city for industrial jobs. To this day, one can see many intricate wrought iron details that were constructed in those years on what are now historic buildings. The iron industry waned by the years due to increased costs associated with a newly unionized workforce and the opening of mines in the Mississippi Range in Minnesota. Albany's other major exports during the 18th and 19th centuries were furs, wheat, meat, and lumber. By 1865, there were almost 4,000 sawmills in the Albany area, and the Albany Lumber District was the largest lumber market in the nation. The city was also home to a number of banks. The Bank of Albany was the second chartered bank in New York. The city was the original home of the Old Bank, founded in 1820 as the Albany Savings Bank, Kai Bank, founded in 1825 as the Commercial Bank of Albany, and North Star Bank, founded as the State Bank of Albany in 1803. American Express was founded in Albany in 1850 as an express mail business. In 1871, the northwestern portion of Albany west from Magazine Street was annexed to the neighboring town of Guelderland after the town of Watervliet refused annexation of the territory. In return for this loss, portions of Bethlehem and Watervliet were added to Albany. Part of the land annexed to Guelderland was ceded back to Albany in 1910, setting up the current western border. The train carrying the body of slain President Abraham Lincoln came through Albany on the way to Illinois, and some claim the ghostly image of that train remains. Albany opened one of the first commercial airports in the world, and the first municipal airport in the United States, in 1908. Originally on a polo field on Lauren Road, it moved to Westerlo Island in 1909 and remained there until 1928. The Albany Municipal Airport, jointly owned by the city and county, was moved to its current location in Colony in 1928. By 1916, Albany's northern and southern borders reached their modern courses. Westerlo Island, to the south, became the second to last annexation, which occurred in 1926. In this chapter, we'll be unraveling the enigma of 1942 to present day and discovering its transformative power. Erastus Corning II, arguably Albany's most notable mayor and great-grandson of the former mayor of the same name, was elected in 1941. Although he was one of the longest-serving mayors of any city in United States history, 1942 until his death in 1983, one historian describes Corning's tenure as long on years, short on accomplishments, citing Corning's preference for maintaining the status quo as a factor that held back potential progress during his tenure. While Corning brought stability to the office of mayor, it is said even those who admire him greatly cannot come up with a sizable list of major concrete Corning achievements. Corning is given credit for saving, albeit somewhat unintentionally, much of Albany's historic architecture. During the years and years, a time when federal aid for urban renewal was plentiful, Albany did not have growth in its economy or infrastructure. It lost more than 20% of its population during the Corning years, as people moved to newer housing in the suburbs, followed by most of the downtown businesses moving there as well. While cities across the country grappled with similar issues, the problems were magnified in Albany. Interference from the Democratic political machine hindered progress considerably. In 1960, the mayor sold the city's stake in the airport to the county, citing budget issues. It was known from then on as Albany County Airport until a massive upgrade and modernization project between 1996 and 1998, when it was rebranded Albany International Airport. Governor Nelson Rockefeller tried to stimulate the city with new monumental architecture and large, government-sponsored building projects. He drove construction of the Empire State Plaza, SUNY Albany's town campus, and much of the W. Averell Harriman State Office Building campus. Albany County Republican Chairman Joseph Celsius Frangella once quipped, "Governor Rockefeller was the best mayor Albany ever had." Corning, although opposed to the project, was responsible for negotiating the payment plan for the Empire State Plaza. Rockefeller did not want to be limited by the legislature's power of the purse, so Corning devised a plan to have the county pay for the construction and have the state sign a lease ownership agreement. The state paid off the bonds until 2004. It was Rockefeller's only viable option, and he agreed. Due to the clout Corning gained from the situation, he gained inclusion of the State Museum, a convention center, and a restaurant back in the plant IDs which Rockefeller had originally vetoed. The county gained $35 million in fees and the city received $13 million for lost tax revenue. Having the state offices in the city enabled it to keep good jobs and retain middle-class residents. Another major project of the ERS and ERS was the construction of Interstate 787 and the South Mall Arterial. Construction began in the early ERS. A proposed mid-crosstown arterial never came to fruition. One of the project's main results was separating the city from the Hudson River. Historian Paul Grondel has described Corning as short-sighted with respect to use of the waterfront, saying the mayor could have used his influence to change the location of I-787, which now cuts the city off from its whole raceums to in 1967. The hamlet of Coesfeld was the last annexation by the city, sourced from the town of Bethlehem. When Corning died in 1983, Thomas Whalen assumed the mayorship and was re-elected twice. He encouraged redevelopment of historic structures and helped attract federal dollars earmarked for that purpose. What Corning had saved from destruction, Whalen refurbished for continued and new uses. The Mayor's Office of Special Events was created in an effort to increase the number of festivals and artistic events in the city, including a year-long Dongan Charter Tricentennial celebration in 1986. Whalen is credited for an unparalleled cycle of commercial investment and development in Albany due to his aggressive business development programs. Prior to the recession of the ERS, downtown Albany was home to 4 Fortune 500 companies. After the death of Corning and the retirement of Congressman Sam Stratton, the political environment changed. Long-term office holders became rare in the ERS. Local media began following the drama surrounding county politics, specifically that of the newly created county executive position. The loss of Corning and eventually the machine led to a lack of interest in city politics. The election of Gerald Jennings was a surprise, and he served as mayor from 1994 until his retirement at the end of 2013. His tenure essentially ended the political machine that had been in place since the ERS. During the ERS, the state legislature approved the $234 million Albany Plan. A building and renovation project was the most ambitious building project to affect the area since the Rockefeller era. Under the Albany Plan, renovation and new building projects were initiated around the downtown area. Many state workers were relocated from the Harriman State Office campus to downtown, helping its retail businesses and vitality. The first decade of the 21st century saw a real possibility for a long-discussed and controversial Albany Convention Center. It opened in 2017 with the goal of making Albany a viable location for large events hosted by statewide organizations. Albany remains an important location for business presence, given its role as de facto seat of Tech Valley and being home to the state capital. Fortune 500 companies with offices in Albany include American Express, JP Morgan and Chase, Merrill Lynch, General Electric, Verizon, Goldman Sachs, International Paper, and KeyBank. Albany won the All-America City Award in both 1991 and 2009. As we progress through this video, let's shift our attention towards geography and uncover its hidden depths. Albany is about 150 miles north of New York City on the Hudson River. It has a total area of 21.8 sqmi, of which 21.4 sqmi is land and 0.4 sqmi 1.8% is water. The city is bordered on the north by the town of Colony along with the village of Menens, on the west by the town of Guelderland, and on the south by the town of Bethlehem. The former Foxes Creek, Beaver Kill, and Rutten Kill were diverted underground in the 19th century. There are 4 lakes within city limits: Buckingham Lake, Rensselaer Lake at the mouth of the Patroon Creek, Tivoli Lake, which was formed as a reservoir and once connected to the Patroon Creek, and Washington Park Lake, which was formed by damming the Beaver Kill. The highest natural point in Albany is a USGS benchmark near the Loneville Reservoir off Birch Hill Road, at 378 foot above sea level. The lowest point is at the Hudson River, which is still technically an estuary at Albany and is affected by the Atlantic tide at an average of 2 foot above sea level at low tide and 4 foot at high tide. The interior of Albany consists of rolling hills which were once part of the Albany pine bush, an area of pitch pine and scrub oak, and has arid, sandy soil that is a remnant of the ancient Lake Albany. Due to development, the pine bush has shrunk from an original 25,000 to today. A preserve was set up by the state legislature in 1988 and is on the city's western edge, spilling into Guilderland and Colony. It is the only sizable inland pine barrens sand dune ecosystem in the United States, and is home to many endangered species, including the Conner blue butterfly. Now, let's shift our attention to climate. Albany is in the humid continental climate zone climate classification, FR, and features cold, snowy winters and hot, humid summers. The city experiences 4 distinct seasons. Albany is in plant-hardened zone near downtown and along the shore of the Hudson and up at its western end. Albany receives 40.7 in of precipitation per year, with 138 days of at least 0.01 in of precipitation each year. Snowfall is significant, totaling 59.4 in per season, but with less accumulation than the lake effect areas to the north and west, as it is farther from Lake Ontario. However, Albany is close enough to the Atlantic coast to receive heavy snow from nor'easters, and the city occasionally receives Alberta clippers. Winters can be very cold with fluctuating conditions. Temperatures drop to 0 F or below on 9 nights per annum. Summers in Albany can contain stretches of excessive heat and humidity, with temperatures of 90 F or hotter on 9 days per year. Record temperature extremes range from -28 F on January 19, 1971 to 104 F on July 4, 1911. As we venture forward, let's take a closer look at neighborhoods and its impact on our understanding. The neighborhoods of Albany include Arbor Hill, Center Square, eclectic mix of residential and commercial, including bars, nightclubs, restaurants, and stores, Pine Hills, and the South End. As we progress, let's shine a spotlight on City of Immigrants and examine its intricate interplay within our topic. Historically, Albany's population has been mixed. First dominated by Mohican and Mohawk, then Dutch and Germans, it was overtaken by the English in the early 19th century. Irish immigrants soon outnumbered most other ethnicities by the mid-19th century, and were followed by Italians and Poles. In the mid to late 20th century, the African American population increased with thousands of people from the rural South as part of the Great Migration. As historian and Albany Assemblyman John Sinany puts it, until after the Revolution, Albany's population consisted mostly of ethnic Dutch descendants. Settlers migrating from New England tipped the balance toward British ethnicity in the early 19th century. Jobs on the turnpikes, canals, and railroads attracted floods of Irish immigrants in the early 19th century, especially in the ears during the Great Famine, solidifying the city's Irish base. Michael Nolan became Albany's first Irish Catholic mayor in 1878, 2 years before Boston. Polish and Italian immigrants began arriving in Albany in the wave of immigration in the latter part of the 19th century. Their numbers were smaller than in many other eastern cities, mainly because most had found manufacturing jobs at General Electric in Schenectady. The Jewish community had been established early, with Sephardic Jewish members as part of the Beveridge community. Its population rose during the late 19th century, when many Ashkenazi Jews immigrated from Eastern Europe. In that period, there was also an influx of Chinese and East Asian immigrants, who settled in the downtown section of the city. Many of their descendants have since moved to suburban areas. Asian immigration all but halted after the Immigration Act of 1924. Albany saw its last large immigration pattern as part of the Great Migration, when many African Americans moved there from the American South before and after World War I to fill industrial positions and find other opportunities. In the early years, African Americans lived together with Italians, Jews, and other immigrants in the South End, where housing was older and less expensive. The black community has grown as a proportion of the population since then. African Americans made up 3% of the city's population in 1950, 6% in 1960, 12% in 1970, and 30% in 2010. The change in proportion is related mostly to middle-class white families moving to the suburbs and black families remaining within city limits during the same time period. Since 2007, the number of Burmese refugees to Albany has increased. The Burmese refugee community consists mostly of persons of Karen ethnicity. An estimated 5,000 Burmese refugees reside in Albany. In the next phase, we'll be immersing ourselves in the realm of religious participation and exploring its real-world applications. Like most cities of comparable age and size, Albany has well-established Orthodox Christian, Roman Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish communities. Albany is home to the oldest Christian congregation in upstate New York and the mother churches of 2 Christian dioceses. 8 churches or religious buildings in the city were listed on the National Register of Historic Places, one of Weixte. Peter's Episcopal Church on State Street is a National Historic Landmark. Established in 1642, the congregation of the First Church in Albany Reformed, also known as the North Dutch Church on North Pearl Street, is the second oldest Reformed church in America. The Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, Eagle Street and Madison Avenue, built 1852, is the Cathedral of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Albany, led by Bishop Edward Schaffenberger, and the Cathedral of All Saints South Swan Street and Elk Street, built 1888, is the Cathedral of the Episcopal Diocese of Albany. As of 2023, the city was home to 12 Catholic churches and 4 Episcopal churches. Despite its history of Christendom, in 2019 the Albany-Schenectady-Troy MSA was found to be among the most post-Christian cities in the United States in a study by Christian polling firm the Barnard Group. A significant Jewish presence has existed in Albany as early as 1658. As of 2010, Albany is home to 2 conservative synagogues, the Chabad Lubavitch Synagogue, an Orthodox synagogue, and 2 Reformed synagogues. Albany is also home to one of the few Karaite synagogues outside Israel. As of 2008, the total membership in Albany's synagogues was estimated at 13,000, with half the members residing outside the city. Since the early years, there has been an increase in Orthodox Jews moving to Albany from the New York metro area, largely due to cheaper housing prices and closer walking proximity to synagogues. The Islamic community in Albany and its surrounding suburbs is represented by at least 4 major mosques in the region. The Muslim population increased substantially starting in the late years, with the arrival of many refugees from countries such as Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. Exact numbers on religious denominations in Albany are not readily available. Demographic statistics in the United States depend heavily on the United States Census Bureau, which cannot ask about religious affiliation as part of its decennial census. It does compile some national and statewide religious statistics, but these are not representative of a city the size of Albany. One report from 2000 offers religious affiliations for Albany County. According to the data, 59.2% of Albany County residents identified as Christian, 47% are Roman Catholic, 8.4% are mainline Protestants, 2.7% are Evangelical Protestants, and 1.1% are Eastern or Oriental Orthodox Christians. Residents who practice Judaism make up 4.2% of the population and Muslims represent 0.2%. As we progress through this video, let's shift our attention towards 2020 census and uncover its hidden depths. Race, ethnicity, Pop 2010, Pop 2020%, 2010%, 2020 white alone, NH 52,857, 44,392, 54.02%, 44.74% black or African American alone, NH 28,479, 29,220 to 29.1%, 29.45% Native American or Alaska Native alone, NH 191, 241, 0.2%, 0.24% Asian alone, NH 4,000. 857,949, 4.96%, 8.01% Pacific Islander alone, NH 4766, 0.05%, 0.07% Some other race alone, NH 296, 871, 0.3%, 0.88% Mixed race multiracial, NH 2000. 744,942, 2.8%, 4.98% Hispanic or Latino any race, 8,396, 11,541, 8.58%, 11.63% Total 97,856, 99,224, 100%, 100%. Albany City, New York Demographic Profile NH equal non-Hispanic Note, the U.S. Census treats Hispanic or Latino as an ethnic category. This table excludes Latinos from the racial categories and assigns them to a separate category. Hispanics or Latinos may be of any race. As of April 1, 2020, Albany's population is 99,224. With a 2013 census estimated population of 1.1 million, the Capital District is the third most populous metropolitan region in the state. As of the 2010 census, Albany's population density was 4,572.7 SCMI. There were 46,362 housing units at an average density of 2,166.4 SCMI. 5,205 of these units, 11.2%, were vacant. The racial makeup of the city residents was 52.3% white, 27% black or African American, 0.06% Native American or Native Alaskan, 7.4% Asian, 0.1% Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander % from other races, and 3.6% from two or more races. A total of 9.2% of the population were Hispanic or Latino of any race. Non-Hispanic whites were 52% of the population in 2010, compared to 87% in 1970. As of 2010, 20% of Albany's population was under the age of 18, 19.3% was aged 18 to 24, 29.2% was aged 25 to 44, 18.1% was aged 45 to 64, and 13.4% was aged 65 years or older. The median age was 31.4 years. For every 100 females, there were 90.6 males. For every 100 females aged 18 and over, there were 86.5 males. Some 81.3% of the population had completed high school or earned an equivalency diploma. As of the 2000 census, the top 5 ancestry groups in the city were African American 27%, Irish 18.1%, Italian 12.4%, German 10.4%, and English 5.2%. 33.1% of the population reported other ancestries. Albany is home to a Triqui language-speaking community of Mexican Americans. There were 40,709 households in Albany in 2000, out of which 22% had children under the age of 18 living with them. 25.3% were married couples living together, 16.1% had a female householder with no husband present, and 54.8% were non-families. 41.9% of all households were made up of individuals, and 11.5% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.11 and the average family size was 2.95. The median income for a household in the city in 2000 was, and the median income for a family was male, year-round worker, and female, year-round worker. The per capita income for the city was about 16% of families and 21.7% of the population were below the poverty line, including 28.8% of those under age 18 and 12.5% of those age 65 or over. The rate of reported violent crimes for 2008 1,095 incidents per 100,000 residents were more than double the rate for similarly sized U.S. cities. Reported property crimes for 1,669 incidents per 100,000 residents were somewhat lower. Demographically speaking, the population of Albany and the Capital District mirrors the characteristics of the United States consumer population as a whole better than any other major municipality in the country. According to a 2004 study conducted by the Axiom Corporation, Albany and its environs are the top-ranked standard test market for new business and retail products. Albany, Rochester, and Syracuse all scored within the top 5. According to the 2020 American Community Survey, the Latino population was 4.57% Puerto Rican, 1.45% Dominican, Ecuadorian, Mexican, Salvadoran, Cuban. Now, let's dig deeper into crime and unveil the hidden treasures it holds within. New York had an effective statewide crime rate of people in 2009. Albany's violent crime rate is nearly on a par with Rochester 1028 violent crimes population versus in Rochester and much lower than Buffalo at. By comparison, New York City's violent crime rate was in 2013. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore economy through a fresh lens, unlocking new perspectives. Ultra-tall, white, steel-framed building with black windows. Albany's economy, along with that of the Capital District in general, is heavily dependent on government, healthcare, education, and more recently, technology. Because of these typically steady economic bases, the local economy has been relatively immune to national economic recessions in the past. In 2009, more than 25% of the city's population worked in government-related positions. Albany's estimated daytime population is more than 162,000. Companies based in Albany include Trans World Entertainment, AMRI Global, and Cloud Harbor. In 2019, Albany had the fourth highest amount of lawyers in its employment pool, 7.5 lawyers per 1,000 jobs compared to the rest of the nation, behind Washington, D.C., Trenton, New Jersey, and New York City, respectively. In the next phase, we'll be immersing ourselves in the realm of Tech Valley and exploring its real-world applications. Since the economy of Albany and the surrounding Capital District has been directed toward high technology, a growing fourth sector of the area's economic base. Tech Valley is a marketing name for the eastern part of New York State, encompassing Albany, the Capital District, and the Hudson Valley. Originated in 1998 to promote the greater Albany area as a high-tech competitor to regions such as Silicon Valley and Boston, it has since grown to represent the counties in the Capital District and extending to 19 counties from its Westchester County plants in the south to the Canada's border in the north. The area's high-technology ecosystem is supported by technologically focused academic institutions including Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and the State University of New York Polytechnic Institute. Tech Valley encompasses 19 counties straddling both sides of the Adirondack Northway and the New York Thruway, and with heavy state taxpayer subsidy, has experienced significant growth in the computer hardware side of the high-technology industry, with great strides in the nanotechnology sector, digital electronics design, and water and electricity-dependent integrated microchip circuit manufacturing. A notable video game development cluster has grown in and around Albany starting in the years. In the following section, we'll be immersing ourselves in the captivating world of nightlife and entertainment. Albany's geographic situation, wholly equidistant from New York City to the south and Montreal to the north, makes it a convenient stop for nationally touring artists and acts. The Palace Theatre and the Egg are mid-sized forums for music, theatre, and spoken word performances. The Capitol Repertory Theatre is smaller. The TU Center is the city's largest musical venue for nationally and internationally prominent bands. It also hosts trade shows, sporting events, and other large gatherings. Some people praise the cultural contributions of Albany and the Greater Capital District. Others suggest that the city has a cultural identity crisis due to its widespread geography, which requires a car to reach most of what the area has to offer, a necessity not seen in larger and more densely populated metropolitan areas such as New York and Boston. In recent years, the city's government has invested resources to cultivate venues and neighborhoods that attract after-hours business. Madison Avenue, Pearl Street, Delaware Avenue, and Lark Street are the most active entertainment areas in the city. Many restaurants, clubs, and bars have opened since the mid-years, revitalizing areas that had once been abandoned and reclaiming old row houses, businesses, and a pump station. Bars are concentrated in 3 areas, about 2 blocks on Park Street, downtown, along Lark Street, home to smaller bars, which fit the neighborhood's artistic and eclectic style, and Western and Madison Avenues, in Midtown, centered on the College of St. Rose and SUNY Albany's downtown campus and drawing younger people. Much of the bar-restaurant scene features classic Irish pubs. Last call in Albany is 4 a.m. nightly. New York law sets that time as last call statewide, although counties may set an earlier time, municipalities may not. More than half of the state's counties have an earlier closing time. Albany County, like all counties in the Capital District, does not. As we transition, let's shed light on festivals and its relevance to our ongoing exploration. Alive at 5 is a free, weekly concert series held downtown during the summer on Thursdays, with 10 concerts in 2010. Total attendance was roughly 100,000. The Tulip Festival is set in Washington Park and celebrates the city's Dutch heritage, which began with Pinkster Festival, an African-Dutch celebration. This traditional Albany event marks the beginning of spring as thousands of tulips bloom in the park in early May. Attendance to the Tulip Festival in 2010 was approximately 80,000. Another large festival in Albany is the Capitol Pride Parade and Festival, a major gay pride event held each June, attended by an estimated 30,000 spectators annually from across upstate New York. The Price Chopper Fabulous 4th and Fireworks Festival at the Empire State Plaza celebrates Independence Day with musical performances and the region's largest fireworks display. Freehofer's Run for Women is a 5-kilometer run through the city that draws more than 4,000 participants from across the country. It is an annual event that began in Albany Chef's Food and Wine Festival. Wine and Dine for the Arts is an annual festival that hosts more than 3,500 people over 3 days. The festival showcases more than 70 regional chefs and restaurants, 250 global wines and spirits, a NYS Craft Beer Pavilion for competitions, the Signature Chef Invitational, Rising Star Chef, Barista Albany and Battle of the Bartenders, and one grand gala reception, dinner and auction featuring 10 of Albany's iconic chefs. The Albany Chefs Food and Wine Festival donates all net proceeds to deserving Albany arts organizations and is held the Thursday-Saturday preceding Martin Luther King weekend. Smaller events include the African American Family Day Arts Festival each August at the Empire State Plaza, the Latin Fest, held each August at the Corning Preserve, the Albany Jazz Festival, an annual end-of-summer event held at the Corning Preserve, and Lark Fest, a music and art festival held each fall. Without wasting any more time, let's jump into the fascinating world of museums and historic sites. Because of Albany's historical and political significance, the city has numerous museums, historical buildings, and historic districts. Albany is home to the New York State Museum, the New York State Library, and the New York State Archives. All three facilities are in the Cultural Education Center at the south end of Empire State Plaza and are free to the public. The USS Slater D-766, the decommissioned World War II destroyer escort that was restored in 1998, is a museum ship docked in the Hudson River at Key Street. It is the only ship of its kind still afloat. The Albany Heritage Area Visitors Center, at the corner of Clinton Avenue and Broadway at Quackenbush Square, hosts a museum, gift shop, and the Henry Hudson Planetarium. In early 2012, the Irish American Heritage Museum opened in downtown Albany. The museum is home to exhibits highlighting the contributions of the Irish people in America. The Albany Institute of History and Art, on Washington Avenue near the Center Square neighborhood and state capitol, is dedicated to collecting, preserving, interpreting, and promoting interest in the history, art, culture of Albany and the Upper Hudson Valley region. The museum's most notable permanent exhibits include an extensive collection of paintings by the Hudson River School and an exhibit on ancient Egypt featuring the Institute's Albany mummies. Albany is home to 57 listings on the National Register of Historic Places (NRHP) and 5 National Historic Landmarks. The Ten Broeck Mansion, a 1797 Federal-style mansion later renovated in the Greek Revival style, built for Abraham Ten Broeck, mayor of Albany, and is a historic house museum and the headquarters of the Albany County Historical Association. It was added to the NRHP in 1971. Later known as Arbor Hill, it gave the current neighborhood its name. In the next portion, we'll be immersing ourselves in the realm of literature and film and examining its broader implications. Albany has been the subject, inspiration, or location for many written and cinematic works. Many non-fiction works have been written on the city. One of the city's more notable claims to fame is Aaron Weed 1983, the 1984 Pulitzer Prize-winning book by Albany native William Kennedy. Aaron Weed was the third in a series of books by Kennedy known as the Albany Cycle. The elusive author Trevanian also grew up in Albany and wrote The Crazy Ladies of Pearl Street 2005, about a North Albany neighborhood along Pearl Street. The book is considered a semi-autobiographical memoir. In 1987, the film version of Aaron Weed premiered at the Palace Theatre. The movie starred Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep, each of whom were nominated for Academy Awards for their performances. Much of the filming was done on location in Albany. Most recently, the downtown area was the site of filming for the action thriller Salt, starring Angelina Jolie, and the action comedy The Other Guys, starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. Authors Herman Melville and Henry James lived with their families in Albany when young, before their careers. James identified his character Isabel Archer, the heroine of his novel The Portrait of a Lady, as being from Albany. Gregory Maguire, author of Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, adapted for the Broadway hit Wicked, grew up in North Albany and graduated from SUNY Albany. As we venture forward, let's take a closer look at architecture and its impact on our understanding. The Empire State Plaza, a collection of state agency office buildings, dominates almost any view of Albany. Built between 1965 and 1978 at the hand of Governor Nelson A. Rockefeller and architect Wallace Harrison, the complex is a powerful example of late American modern architecture and remains a controversial building project both for displacing city residents and for its architectural style. The most recognizable aspects of the complex is the Erastus Corning Tower, the tallest building in New York outside of New York City. Juxtaposed at the north end of the plaza is the 19th New York State Capitol, the seat of the New York State Legislature and the home of the governor's office. Albany's initial architecture incorporated many Dutch influences, followed soon after by those of the English. Quackenbush House, a Dutch colonial brick mansion, was built. Schuyler Mansion, a Georgian-style mansion, was built in 1765, and the oldest building in Albany is the 1728 Van Ostrand Radcliffe House at 48 Hudson Avenue. Albany's housing varies greatly, with mostly row houses in the older sections of town, closer to the river. Housing type quickly changes as one travels westward, beginning with two-family homes of the late 19th century, and one-family homes built after World War I in the western end of the city. Albany's City Hall, designed by Henry Hobson Richardson, was opened in 1883. The New York State Capitol was opened in 1899 after 32 years of construction at a cost of $25 million, making it the most expensive government building at the time. Albany's Union Station, a major Beaux Arts design, was under construction at the same time. It opened in 1900. In 1912, the Beaux Arts-styled New York State Department of Education building opened on Washington Avenue near the Capitol. It has a classical exterior, which features a block-long white marble colonnade. The Ers brought the Art Deco movement, which is illustrated by the Home Savings Bank Building 1927 on North Pole Street and the Alfred East. Smith Building 1930 on South Swan Street, two of Albany's tallest high-rises. Architecture from the Ers is well represented in the city, especially at the W. Averell Harriman State Office Building Campus Ers and on the Uptown campus of the University at Albany. The State Office campus was planned in the Ers by Governor W. Averell Harriman to offer more parking and easier access for state employees. The Uptown SUNY campus was built in the Ers under Governor Rockefeller on the site of the city-owned Albany Country Club. Straying from the popular open campus layout, SUNY Albany has a centralized building layout with administrative and classroom buildings at center surrounded by 4 student housing towers. The design called for much use of concrete and glass, and the style has slender, round-topped columns and pillars reminiscent of those at Lincoln Center in New York City. Downtown has seen a revival in recent decades, often considered to have begun with Norstar Bank's renovation of the former Union Station as its corporate headquarters in 1986. The Times Union Center TU Center was originally slated for suburban colony, but was instead built downtown and opened in 1990. Other development in downtown includes the construction of the State Dormitory Authority headquarters at 515 Broadway 1998, the State Department of Environmental Conservation building, with its iconic green dome, at 625 Broadway 2001, the State Comptroller headquarters on State Street 2001, the Hudson River Way 2002. A pedestrian bridge connecting Broadway to the Corning Preserve, and 677 Broadway 2005, the first privately owned downtown office building in a generation. Prepare yourself for an in-depth analysis of sports in this section. Albany has no major league professional sports teams, and minor league teams typically have low support. The Albany Devils were a minor league ice hockey team that moved to the city for the season. They played in the American Hockey League and were affiliated with the New Jersey Devils of the National Hockey League. The Devils replaced the Albany River Rats, who played in the Capital Region from 1990 to 2010, when they relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina. The Albany Devils moved to Binghamton, New York in 2017. The Times Union Center has previously hosted arena football teams including the Albany Firebirds in the Arena Football League AFL from 1990 to 2000 and then a team originally known as the Albany Conquest and later the Firebirds in the Berfels Developmental League from 2002 to 2009. The Albany Empire played in the AFL from 2018 through the 2019 season when the league folded. A new Albany Empire was relaunched in the National Arena League for the 2021 season. In 2023, Antonio Brown bought the team and immediately caused problems. He missed payment after payment till finally, the NAL suspended the Empire from the league. The Tri-City Valley Cats short-season minor league baseball team have played at the Joseph L. Bruno Stadium on the Hudson Valley Community College campus in North Greenbush since 2002. Prior to the Valley Cats' arrival, the Albany Colony Diamond Dogs played at Heritage Park in Colony due to financial pressures and facing impending competition from the Valley Cats. The franchise folded in 2002. The Albany Legends International Basketball League played in the Washington Avenue Armory from 2010 to 2014 before moving to Schenectady. The Albany Patroons have played at the Armory on and off since 1982 and currently play in the Basketball League. With the large number of local colleges and universities around Albany, college sports are popular. The University at Albany's Great Danes play at the Division I level in all sports. The football team is a member of the Coastal Athletic Association, while all other sports teams play as members of the America East Conference. In 2006, Albany became the first SUNY-affiliated school to send a team to the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament. The Senior Saints saw a rise in popularity after their men's basketball team made it to the NCAA tournament in 2008, 2009, and 2010. All 18 Saints teams are Division I and play in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. Although Senior's campus is in nearby Colony, the men's basketball team plays at the Times Union Center. Albany hosted the New York Giants training camp from 1996 to 2012. On February 23, 2021, it was announced that the National Lacrosse League (NLL) would return to the city with the relocation of the New England Black Wolves. The team was named the Albany Fire Wolves on April 15, 2021. This is the second NLL team to be based in the area. The first, the Albany Attack, played in the city from 2000 to 2003. With that being said, let's now move on to parks and recreation. Albany has more than 60 public parks and recreation areas. Washington Park was organized as the Middle Public Square in 1806. Its current location has been public property since the Dongan Charter of 1686 gave the city title to all property not privately owned. Washington Park was designed by John Bogart and John Cuyler in 1870 and opened for public use the following year. The original lake house, designed by Frederick W. Brown, was added in 1876. The park had previously been used as a cemetery. Its graves were moved to Albany Rural Cemetery. Washington Park is a popular place to exercise and play sports, skate during the winter, people watch during Tulip Fest, and attend plays at the amphitheater during the summer. Other parks in Albany include Lincoln Park, Buckingham Park, the Corning Preserve, and the Pine Bush. Lincoln Park, southwest of the Empire State Plaza, was organized in 1886 and was originally known as Beaver Park. Today, the park has a pool that is open during the summer months. Buckingham Lake Park is between Manning Boulevard and Route 85 in the Buckingham Pond neighborhood. It contains a pond with fountains, a footpath, a playground, and picnic tables. The Albany Riverfront Park at the Corning Preserve has an 800-seat amphitheater that hosts events in non-winter months, most notably the Alive at 5 summer concert series. The preserve's visitors center details the ecology of the Hudson River and the local environment. The park has a bike trail and boat launch and was effectively separated from downtown by Interstate 787 until the opening of the Hudson River Way in 2002. Other public parks include Westland Hill Park, Hoffman Park, Beverwick Park, and Liberty Park. Today a small circular grassy patch in downtown on Hudson Avenue, which is Albany's oldest park. Ridgefield Park is home to the clay courts of the Albany Tennis Club, one of the oldest tennis clubs in the United States. The municipal golf course, New Course at Albany, was constructed in 1929 as the Albany Municipal Golf Course, later renamed the Capitol Hills at Albany, and remodeled in 1991. Now, let's shift our focus to government and embark on an intellectual exploration of its various dimensions. Albany has a strong mayor-council form of government, which functions under the Dongan Charter, which was granted by colonial Governor Thomas Dongan in 1686 when Albany was incorporated as a city. A revised charter was adopted by referendum in 1998, but was legally reckoned as an amendment to the Dongan Charter. This gives Albany the distinction of having the oldest active city charter in the United States and arguably the longest-running instrument of municipal government in the Western Hemisphere. The mayor, who is elected every 4 years, heads the executive branch of city government. The current mayor, Kathy Sheehan, was first elected in 2013. She replaced former Mayor Gerald Jennings, who was mayor for 20 years from 1994 to 2013. The Common Council represents the legislative branch of city government and is made up of 15 council members, each elected from one ward, and an at-large Common Council president. The current president is Corey Ellis. He began his term in January 2018. While Albany has its own city government, it has also been the seat of Albany County since the county's formation in 1683 and the capital of New York since 1797. As such, the city is home to all branches of the county and state governments, as well as its own. Albany City Hall sits on Eagle Street, opposite the state capitol, and the Albany County Office Building is on State Street. The state government has offices scattered throughout the city. Albany is in the 20th Congressional District, represented by Paul Tomko in the United States House of Representatives. The city is represented by Chuck Schumer D. and Kirsten Gillibrand D. in the United States Senate. On the state level, the city is in the 44th District in the New York Senate, represented by Neil Breslin D. In the New York Assembly, Western Albany is in the 109th District, represented by Patricia Fahey D. while downtown and Eastern Albany are in the 108th District, represented by John T. McDonald IIID. As the seat of Albany County, the city is the location of the county's courts including Family Court, County Court, Surrogate Court, Supreme Court, and New York Court of Appeals. Albany is the site of a federal courthouse that houses the United States District Court for the Northern District of New York. Let's now shift gears and explore politics through a critical lens, uncovering its strengths and weaknesses. Albany's politics have been dominated by the Democratic Party since the ERS. Daniel "Uncle Dan" O'Connell established a political machine in the city with the election of William Stormont Hackett as mayor in 1922. Prior to that, William Barnes Jr. had set up a Republican machine in the ERS. Barnes' success is attributed to the fact that he owned 2 newspapers in Albany and that he was the grandson of Thurlow Weed, the influential newspaper publisher and political boss. O'Connell's organization overcame Barnes in 1922 and survived well into the ERS even after his death, as the machine put forth candidates for whom the electorate dutifully voted. In many instances, votes were outright bought. It was not uncommon for the machine to buy poor folks' loyalty and trust with a $5. Gerald Jennings upset in the 1993 Democratic mayoral primary over Harold Joyce, who had the Democratic Party's formal endorsement and had only recently been its county chairman, is often cited as the end of the O'Connell era in Albany. In the early 21st century, Albany continued to be dominated by the Democratic Party. Democratic Party enrollment in the city was 38,862 in 2009, while Republican enrollment was 3,487. As of 2022, every elected city position had been held by a Democrat since 1931. In November 2013, Kathy Sheehan became the first woman to be elected mayor of Albany. Let's now turn our attention to education and uncover the fascinating insights it brings to the table. The City School District of Albany CSD operates the city's public school system, which consists of 17 schools and learning centers. In addition, there are 7 charter schools, including Green Tech Charter High School and Albany Leadership High School. In the school year, over 9,000 students were enrolled in the public school system. The district had an average class size of 18, an 81% graduation rate, and a 5% dropout rate. The district's budget is $202.80 million. Although considered by the state to be one of the lowest achieving high schools in New York, Albany High was listed as the nation's 976th best high school in a 2010 Newsweek Washington Post report. Albany also has a number of private schools, including the co-ed Bishop Maginn High School and Albany Free School, the all-boys Albany Academy, and the all-girls Academy of the Holy Names and Albany Academy for Girls. The Albany Medical College Private, today part of Albany Medical Center, was founded in 1839. Albany Law School Private is the oldest law school in New York and the fourth oldest in the country. It was opened in 1851. President William McKinley was an alumnus. The Albany College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences Private is the second oldest pharmacy school in New York and the 15th oldest in the United States. The New York State Normal School, one of the oldest teachers' colleges in the United States, opened in 1844. It was later known as the State Teachers College. It eventually evolved into the University at Albany, also known as SUNY Albany Public, which inherited the Normal School's original downtown campus on Western Avenue. The center of the campus moved to its current uptown campus in the west end of the city in 1970. SUNY Albany is a unit of the State University of New York and one of only 4 university centers in the system. Other colleges and universities in Albany include Empire State College, the College of St. Rose, Excelsior College, Murray College, Mildred Ely, and Sage College of Albany. Nearby Hudson Valley Community College HVCC fills the community college niche in the Albany-Troy area. The effect of the campuses on the city's population is substantial, combining the student bodies of all the aforementioned campuses except HVCC results in 63,149 students, or almost 70% of the 2008 estimate of Albany's permanent population. In this chapter, we'll be unraveling the enigma of media and discovering its transformative power. The Times-Union is Albany's primary daily newspaper and the only one based close to the city. Its headquarters moved from within city limits to suburban colony in the years after a dispute with Mayor Corning over land needed for expansion. Its circulation totals about 73,000 on weekdays and 143,000 on Sundays. Serving Albany to a lesser degree are the Daily Gazette, based in Schenectady, and the Record of Troy. Metroland is the alternative newsweekly in the area, publishing each Thursday, while the Business Review is a business weekly published each Friday. The Legislative Gazette, another weekly newspaper, focuses exclusively on issues related to the legislature and the state government. As of 2010, the Albany-Schenectady-Troy media market is the 63rd in the country in terms of radio and the 57th in terms of television audiences. It is a broadcast market with historical significance. The pioneering influence of General Electric in Schenectady directly contributed to the area emerging as the birthplace of station-based television with WIGB. The station was also the first affiliate of NBC. In 1947, the region was home to the first independently owned and operated commercial frequency modulation radio station in the United States. WGY was the second commercial radio station in New York and the 12th in the nation. The Capital District is home to ABC affiliate WTEN-10, CBS affiliate WIGB6, also operating CW affiliate WCWN45, Fox affiliate WXXA23, NBC affiliate WNYT13, also operating My Network affiliate WNYA51, and PBS member station WMHT17. Charter Communications hosts Spectrum News Capital Region, the area's only local 24-hour news channel. The area has numerous radio stations. Let's now shift gears and explore highways through a critical lens, uncovering its strengths and weaknesses. The Northway Interstate 87 north of the New York State Thruway connects Albany by car to Canada at Champlain. Route 15 continues into Quebec, linking Albany to Montreal. Interstate 90 connects Albany to both Buffalo and Boston via the New York State Thruway and the Massachusetts Turnpike respectively, both of which use I-90, the NYS Thruway partially, the Massachusetts Turnpike fully. South of Albany, I-87 becomes part of the Thruway and ends at Interstate 278 in the Bronx. Albany is at the crossroad of I-87 and I-90, creating a junction between Buffalo, Boston, Montreal, and New York. Interstate 787 links Albany to Watervliet, Colony, and Menons. By way of Route 7, I-787 connects to the Northway. Brace yourself for a captivating discussion on trains as we explore its nuances and implications. Since the closure of Union Station on Broadway, area passenger rail service is provided by Amtrak at the Albany Rensselaer station across the river in Rensselaer. In 2009, the station saw more than 720,000 passengers, making it Amtrak's second busiest in New York, behind Manhattan's Penn Station. Amtrak provides service south to New York City, north to Montreal, and Burlington, Vermont, west to Niagara Falls, Toronto and Chicago, and east to Boston. In this section, we'll be exploring airport. Albany's major airport is Albany International Airport in Colony. Major airline service to Albany includes service by American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, JetBlue Airlines, and United Airlines. Million Air is the local fixed-base operator. In 2010, Albany had the highest average airfare in New York, though the per-mile cost on its busiest routes was second lowest in the state. Moving forward, we'll be taking a closer look at bus. The Capital District Transportation Authority (CDTA) provides bus service throughout Albany and the surrounding area, including Schenectady, Troy, and Saratoga Springs. The city was once served by an urban streetcar service maintained by the United Traction Company. As in many American cities, after the advent of the automobile, light rail services declined in Albany and were replaced by bus and taxi services. Greyhound lines, Trailways, Peter Pan, Short Line, Vermont Trans Lines, and Yankee Trails buses all serve a downtown terminal. Brown Coach provides commuter service. Low-cost curbside bus service from the SUNY Albany campus and the Rensselaer station is also provided by Megabus, with direct service to New York City. As we progress through this video, let's shift our attention towards boat and uncover its hidden depths. Albany, long an important Hudson River port, today serves domestic and international ships and barges through the port of Albany-Rensselaer, on both sides of the river. The port has the largest mobile harbor crane in the state of New York. The New York State Barge Canal, the ultimate successor of the Erie Canal, is in use today, largely by tourist and private boats. Brace yourselves for the next chapter, where we'll be dissecting sister cities. The city of Nijmegen, Netherlands connected with Albany following World War II. With the help of the Catholic University in Albany, the Catholic University of Nijmegen Radboud University Nijmegen rebuilt its partly destroyed library, with over 50,000 books being donated to the Dutch university. To show its gratitude for post-war assistance, the city sent Albany 50,000 tulip bulbs in 1948. This act led to the establishment of the annual Tulip Festival. Most of the other connections were made in the years during Mayor Willen's term in office as part of his cultural expansion program. Albany's sister cities are Richer, Akranenassa, Almas Nijmegen, Netherlands Stula, Russia Verona, Italy. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from it.